thankful to be here today for our fourth elevated conversation. And as we have it, it is May, and we are celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, without further ado, I'm going to just pass it to each of our panelists. I have read their bio and I know who they are, and I know Ted knows who they are, but I would like each of them to introduce themselves in light of the work that they've done in mental health. Ladies first.
Hi, my name is Daphne DJ. I'm a mental and physical health coach. I co-founded a company called Green Hearted Wellness, and I focus with women of color and help them with just holistic ways to find way that they can just improve their mental and physical wellness. So I use cannabis as one, yoga, training, all different alternative modalities to help them find better health, well-being. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Okay.
Okay, I'm William Michael Barbie. I'm a filmmaker, serial entrepreneur, published author, and a clinician, as well as a philanthropist. And so my background comes from being a former consumer of mental health services at the age of 20 with suicidal ideations, hospitalization, becoming a businessman and stumbling into multiple companies that has propelled my life in a business way. And then going back and wanting to give back, one of the companies I founded was Airmate Counseling Services for the last 18 years. So we're substance misuse as well as mental health clinic. And I'm opening up a new clinic. Now it's strictly mental health and it'll be telehealth. And I'm also the facilitator of Man Village Men Support Group. And one of the things I wanted to do after being out here in the public sector is to give back to the community. And one of the things is helping brothers heal from past traumas.
Amen.
So,
Each of you knew you were going to be on the panel today, and there's one question that you wanted me to ask that you may have thought, I got to make sure I say that. What is one thing that you want people to leave here? I just want to start with something on your heart that you want people to know. I'll pass it back to you.
so if I had to say one thing, it can't be one thing.
I know,
Right.
But let me just say this: we're all dealing with stress every day in our lives, and sometimes we don't deal with it. And often we come to the table with unaddressed issues from our childhood. And so, from a clinical perspective, we always target people from the perspective of childhood trauma. We talk about the adolescents, we talk about families of origin. And when we speak to those things, we have to get to the root of what shows up. So often we're these older adults, like boys. We're told you don't cry, you man up. So we never were able to assign emotions to our feelings. Whereas girls, when you fall, oh, you boo-boo, oh, baby, well, I heard daddy. So as we grow up older men who are wounded. And it's not by our choice, it's just by circumstance. And so now through intentionality, you can heal from your trauma, but you have to have a level of intentionality. So I wanted that to go out, and I didn't want that to be missed.
It's not one thing. There's so many things. So I
Yeah.
will say just a hot topic this week is just really focusing on community. You know, a lot of women are really just stressed out. They've used our voices and we feel just pushed aside. So right now, I would say really just truly be kind to other people and focus on unity within the community and pairing each other with businesses and just really just holding each other accountable for just being kind to one another.
Nice, nice. So I'll let the conversation go as it pleases, but there's just one statistic that I want to talk about. From 2007 to 2020, suicide rates among the Black youth from ages 10 to 24 increased by 36%, as compared to only a 5% increase among white youth. Can you speak to that and what may be some of the just driving forces around those statistics?
Yes, well, when we look at suicide ideation, suicide attempts, we have to look at society, we have to look at accessibility. So me growing up, child of the tail end of the civil rights movement, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have access to so much information. And so now we have words that we hear about bullying. We see things in school. We see everything through email, text, the internet. And so accessibility to all of these resources, people are cyberbullied. And so people have a lot of issues that haven't been addressed. Also, during my generation, we developed interpersonal skills. And so when we look at what has happened to the youth today, they don't know their next door neighbor. They didn't play outside with their friends. So when you lack those interpersonal skills, yeah, bullying does go up. And so when we start thinking from suicidal ideations, as I once was a consumer of mental health services, because I had that at the age of 20, I'm 59 now, but at 20 years of age, I really wrestled with things because there were other issues, self-esteem. And so when we factor in technology and other factors that impact us with accessibility, having to deal with how do I adjust to cyberbullying when people don't know me, but yet people are casting this wide net on who I am. And so if I have all these other factors missing, I buy into whatever the narrative that's coming in, and sometimes it's just overwhelming. So I start looking inwardly. When we look at comparatively to other communities, we have to also look at structure. We have to look at socioeconomic conditions. We have to look at all these factors that play into how we see each other from a generational perspective. When we look at our white counterparts, there's another factor, so we often resources are not provided in our communities that we need to support the things that we're going through as individuals, people of color, or predominantly poor in some areas. And so when you have those disparities, it's hard to say specifically this is the reason, because there's a culmination of reasons. When we look at post-traumatic stress disorder, we look at the trauma that kids have in the school system. Post-traumatic stress disorder isn't just related to issues that pertain to military veterans. It's going in the inner cities of these streets. It's watching someone else that you know or someone you love go through trauma. Watching the news that is showing all the negative images every day. All of those stress loads are things that really burden all of us. And so when we look at why is it more in the inner city, you got to look at who controls the media. What media is shown in the inner city? Who controls these narratives that come to our children? And so when they have to compare themselves to others and see that there's a major disparity, it's hard to adjust to that. Then add the other factors. So I don't want to talk too long.
No, but
We got my sister here.
so you and I spoke downstairs. Every time you're here, we kind of have little talks. And one of the things that we talked about is how in a lot of Black communities, we're told to just like pray and give it to God, and that's it. And we know that that's not enough. Can you speak to how your own background led you to create your mental health business, and just how your story brought you here to the panel today?
So I struggled with severe anxiety and depression several years ago. Just a lot of things were falling apart at the time. I was this Wall Street person, looked like I had it together. Then finally around me, things started to fall apart. I started seeing a therapist, and I was also a fitness competitor. So I started seeing a therapist, and they initially prescribed pharmaceutical drugs. I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs. It just did not work for me. And I went into the office to kind of combat that, like, listen, I don't want to do this. And I thought I was going to get resistance from from my therapist. And I told her, well, I might as well smoke weed if this is what you're going to do. And her response at that time, this was about early 20 years ago. Okay, so it wasn't legal. So she had this look like, okay, I can't say this to you. So I just took it upon myself to own my own mental health, and I just explored cannabis. And there were times where I felt great, and then there was times where it exasperated my anxiety. So there was no such thing as dosage. There was like two strains, chocolate Thai and sour D. They didn't, that was it, So through my exploration, plant medicine, I started to discover this sacred plant medicine. I started looking at where it came from and how to use it for my own health. And then eventually, just being someone who people looked at as someone who had it all together, they started to realize, wait, Daphne smokes weed? Like, what is she doing? So they started asking me questions. So I felt like I had to educate myself, and I started to see the health benefits. Shout out to Mike, he had gummies. So that was the first time where it was like 5 milligrams and things like that. And then his wife, I would tell him, no, there were times where it was making me paranoid. And she helped me to see, no, there's a 1-to-1 ratio. So I knew CBD and THC was my medicine. And that's when I started to discover, like, okay, we have something here. You know, the stigma with my mom, she was like, wait, you starting to take drugs? You know, so there were a lot of things that I had to go around and break generational curses to help them understand that this is a medicinal plant and it could really help people with their mental health. There wasn't a lot of information at the time, but I knew that there was something there that can help the community.
Amen.
Wow.
Amen. Awesome.
Now, can I just
Please,
ask?
please.
Yes. One, I congratulate you on the successes that you've had as a result of finding. How did you really get to that balance? Was there a lot of
It was a
like,
lot of work.
okay.
You know, when you're in a dark time, right? And you're trying to, I was a single mom, a newly single mom. I had lost my job. You know, there was so much, I wasn't, you know, building great relationships. So you had to look at yourself like, okay, what's going on here? And then, you know, being diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety, I was embarrassed. Like, I didn't know who to go to. Like, okay, people, and also therapy, right? Oh, she's crazy. What's wrong with her? Oh, she's seeing a psychiatrist. Oh,
Especially 20 years ago.
yeah,
It
20
wasn't-
years
it
ago.
wasn't
And then,
popular.
you know, again, I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs. It just did not work for me. And we talked about our spirituality. It was just something where it worked, but I lost this inner dialogue that I had with spirit. So it was just, you're moving and you're functioning, but there was something different about me. And then to be able to challenge the system saying, I think I want to go to holistic. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try this. That at the time people were like, what are you talking about? You know, and everybody, you want to try drugs? That was another thing. I had to change the narrative. It's not drugs. It's plant medicine, you know, and then someone said amen. So
The deacon.
the deacon said, it's plant medicine. And then doing my own research. And then you're going against people who have degrees and, oh, well, I'm a doctor and medical school and all of this. And I'm like, no, the spirit is telling me this is the way to go. And then putting cannabis with spirituality, that was like a no.
Yeah,
You
'cause
know,
you was high
like,
already, right? Oh,
you
it's
know,
God.
and it to me, it's having a personal relationship,
Sure.
right? Personal relationship with God, personal relationship with plant medicine. So that discovery was just work. Took years. I mean, 20 years ago. You know, now it's like a beauty where you can go to sleep. What do you want to do to make love? What do you want to do to eat? What, you know, you have all these different strains. So it's come a long way, you know. But at the time, it was like
I'm sorry, I
trial
had
and error.
questions.
Trial and error. Trial and error.
I'm learning this
Yes,
stuff,
yes.
Amen.
and you've been educating me, and so I appreciate it. You know, it's like as I'm learning more, and I know I'm not the host, but
Nope.
this is conversation,
Yeah,
right? You brought me from New Jersey for
And
a
I
reason.
thank you for being open because people, I mean, now it's more open. Now there's more resources, there's more education. But 20 years ago, it was like, no, you just want to get high.
Right.
Like, I mean, and I don't judge recreational use either. I don't. But at that time, it was like, wow, you really can use. And then you would see people out on the streets just smoking weed and doing all types of things. And then there was a judgment. If you're lazy, it just exasperates it. You know, it doesn't make you lazy if you're using it for medicinal uses. So there was a lot of stigmas that I had to break within my own family, mostly my family. Mostly my family.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then: when
just
the
took over?
talking,
I love it.
I'm
I
sorry.
love it.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm teasing. Go ahead.
The reason why this is so important for you to ask these questions
I'm
is because-
completely ignorant.
and we're trying to bridge the
ignorance,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So it's very important because you know we have baby boomer, right? And so there's this big gap between the knowledge and the information because for so long it was so bad to your generation. And so
Well, not so much bad. It just it was recreational. Not that I partook, but it was recreational for my generation. I know people, as I was telling Daphne, I know people who are medical doctors who are in their 80s who talk about they've been smoking since the 50s and 60s.
okay.
You know, and so to know that even at this stage they use it, but yet they didn't counter the stigma. So as Daphne's speaking, you know, like earlier before we came on camera, and she was like, well, you know, Mike, that part that you just don't know is part of what the stereotype, but it's also the part that heals the community to educate them, to eradicate the stigmas associated with medicinal use. I was completely ignorant to this. I was doing my crash course the last 48 hours, man. You know, but I just find it very important to be in a space like this to learn. So I'm sorry for my impromptu questions.
Yeah.
I was lucky to have, even now, my doctor, I don't know. I'm almost 50, so I don't know how far.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a clap for
So
that, 'cause,
even
you know.
now, I'm entering menopausal phase. So I have a doctor now who's like, okay, yeah, that's right. Keep it up with the cannabis. And a doctor. I don't want to put hormones in your body. So yes, you can use for menopause. You can use it for, so I was very lucky to have people around me
God
and
bless you.
clinicians and practitioners and diving into the holistic alternative ways to support me. A lot of women did not have that support where it was just like, nope, it's bad. Even with you, it's like, how's your lungs? My lungs are great. My lungs are fine. But now there's different ways that you can consume cannabis.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not the host. It's your job.
Oh, now he
Don't look
switched
at
it
me.
back to you. He switched it back to you.
Don't look at me.
So, and please feel free to ask any questions
I
throughout.
did. And will.
So I took a mental health first aid class, and it was something that I encourage everyone to take because it taught me so much. One of the things that they said in the class is that in our lifetimes we'll go through at least 2 mental health breakdowns, and it's kind of like if you don't do anything about it, it's kind of like having your ankle broken, but just continue to walk on it year after year after year. And so then when something happens, it's like you get your leg cut off because you never treated the sprain 10 years ago. I read your bio, and you transformed what you went through to an amazing set of entrepreneurial businesses. But how did you do that? Like,
Let me address the first part because as you were speaking, Daphne is the epitome of someone who took control of her situation, right?
amen.
And so when we hear statistics, and she and I spoke earlier about some part of it, but this part is we're addressing, I have challenges with a lot of statistics because they don't take into account systemic and structural things that are intergenerational, particularly that targeted people of color.
Right.
And so when traumas show up to us, your statistics say, oh, you'll have at least 2 mental breakdowns, because I took the course as well, and many more after that. It doesn't talk about how we've normalized our traumas. It doesn't talk about what my granny and my grandma and my great grandmama went through and how those things trickle down into how I show up. Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome in the way in which how we see ourselves. And so how do we see ourselves in reflection to the world? And so those traumas tend to come and look and attack us differently. So we don't always get included in those statistics fairly. And so that's how it even shows in whether it's criminal stuff, they criminalize us in a way. And so for me going through suicidal ideations to arrive to a serial entrepreneur and all these other things, one of the good things that happened for me was I was always a shy kid with low self-esteem. I didn't realize, I knew that I didn't think the way everyone else thought. I didn't feel I was extra sensitive on the ultra. I cry often. My brother was the louder voice. And what I found for my situation, I did everything inwardly. So all of my anger was inward. I didn't express it. I didn't give myself voice. And it wasn't until I was at Jersey City State College before going into Rutgers and doing business that I found myself eventually in a hospital. And in order to, once I came out the hospital, to go back to college, I had to be assigned to a psychologist. And so the school psychologist at Jersey City, then at Rutgers University at the time, so we're going back over 30 years ago. And so helping me navigate that, it took a Jewish, so I'm a Christian too, church, Pentecostal, talking in tongues, all that. But was I in relationship with God? No, because my mental was out. And so when we talk about all this religion stuff, I tend to push away and to talk about the spirituality component. Are you in relationship with God? So it took me years, but it took this 4'11" Jewish woman with an afro who was a chain smoker who lived in Brooklyn, who worked in New Jersey. Her name was Dr. Shelley Niederback. And so she dealt with invisible wounds, and she dealt with Pelican Bay, and she wrote books about those things, but she was my psychologist. And so this lady who didn't look like me coming to the city of Newark and trying to understand my situation, I was against it. But until it took me a year or more, but once I embraced therapy through this Jewish woman, my life, I had blinders like a horse. I was doing transportation, and it just went from limos to private ambulance, charter buses, school buses, to commercial real estate, and wanting to give back. I'm an artist, so I went to art school with Tisha Campbell. We all went to the same high school together. And so I wanted to give back, so I started writing books. And we turned one of the books into a movie. And that one was called Beyond the Silence. It's now streaming on Amazon Prime. And so being able to tell my story to help others and then wanting to give back, started my own mental health substance abuse clinic 18 years ago. Just want to be intentional. So everything about me is intentional because of where I've been, you know. And so I had the shame initially with being diagnosed with a mental anxiety and depression. I had shame with it, but I wear it with a badge of honor today.
Amen. Amen.
People like to talk about your accomplishments, but I always take them. I was on the panel at Rutgers University. I was talking earlier, and they want to say, "Oh, Mr. Barbie, oh, your movies and your books." Oh, I said, "No. Well, let's talk about." I was in that hospital over there, St. Michael's Hospital,
Wow.
30 plus years ago. Let's talk about those struggles so that these students can better understand how to deal with their challenges as they navigate life.
Amen. Amen. And in a second, I'm going to turn it over so that anybody from the audience can come up and ask questions. So if you wanted to ask some questions, you can think about that. But for people watching who, mental health is not a thing to them, what are some tools? What are some just small bites or bite-sized things that you can give them to just help them? Because, from where I am, we are in a mental health crisis.
I was about to say, I don't think any.
So, but, a lot of people, they have their bills, they have their this, they have their that. And so even just physical health, as I work as a health practitioner, sometimes physical health is the last thing someone is caring about. And then mental health goes behind that. And so what are some tools, something that you can give people who may be struggling with mental health and may not even know it?
I kind of said it, I tried to explain a little earlier. One of the big things I say is just showing up as your authentic self and being honest about where you're at. There's a lot of people hiding. That's why I said be kind, be in community. That's what I meant to say earlier. And you'll be very surprised how many people are walking around misdiagnosed or not diagnosed. And it's a little scary to me because when I say faking the funk, I'm not even talking about social media. I'm talking about showing up, who can show up, put on their best face.
That's right.
And go high functioning and do well, but go home and struggle in silence. I think it kind of showcased during COVID, right? When the titles started to disappear and they had to deal with themselves. It was a shock to a lot of people. Like, what am I gonna do? I don't got no money. So they got exposed, right? So for me, especially with the Black community, especially with our brothers and sisters, because there's a lot of division, going on, really come together and unite and be real. So show up as your authentic self and be honest about where you're at. So that would be, for me, that's what happened to me. I had to sit with self, right? And that's where Green Hearted start with. I'm not religious. I grew up Catholic, but I decided it was like me and God. So when you sit with just you and God, you got to sit with yourself. And I had to learn how to love me and what that meant. What does it mean to love me, right? And it meant being real. And real can sometimes be ugly. Real can be raw. And a lot of people can't do that, right? So that would be my biggest thing, and hold on to each other with community more so, especially with everything with, with DEI, like we're tired, but we still have to, I am not part of the 92%. I can't be. If everybody just said, what, I'm not doing anything, we still have to keep going. You have to accept your role in life. As a Black woman, I've accepted that I'm going to have to continue the struggle. And if you're not honest with who you are, you're just going to fall, especially in this, you're going to fall apart. There's no way you can live in this society and not feel what's happening. Like I can literally, as an empath, I can literally feel the tension. And we don't have to do that alone. So there's a lot of traditions. I grew up Haitian. So with Haitian people, we can hate each other, but when it comes down to it, we will stick together. So that's kind of what we have. Yes, we got a couple of knuckleheads in the Black community, but we still got to hold on to them. Those are our brothers and sisters. So if there's anything, be authentic and stick with community. Fight to stick with community and unite more so ever now, Yeah.
From a clinical perspective, thank you for that. I think the first thing she said was showing up authentic is very important for all of us. But I also say we have to learn how to manage our expectations of ourselves and others. We have to set short-term obtainable goals. Once you start obtaining short-term goals, it becomes routine in accomplishing the larger goal. Setting boundaries, something that we don't do. We're so often being a parent, sometimes single parent, working, having to have a second job, having to make sure taking care of our parents, doing a whole lot of stuff. And so I always say we have to also be intentional about our mental, physical, spiritual health. So we have to do things like mindfulness activities. Mindfulness activities are meditation, prayer, exercising, art, music, finding someone you love who you haven't spoken to, being kind to people, going back to your initial thing, being kind.
And it's so simple, but yet it's so
Very
big.
simple, but we just don't do it, And so those are like some of the basic elements, but I always want people to know mindfulness activities are things that we do every day. We just have to be intentional. I was talking to the men's group recently, and they were saying, well, Mike, how can we pour into someone else when we're empty? I said, it's very easy. And they said, what do you mean it's very easy? I said, well, when we went to the YMCA on Christmas morning, and 60 men, we showed up at the Y, and we fed at 5 o'clock in the morning. We fed 400 homeless people and those families. I said, how did it make you feel? He said, man, I felt good. I said, okay, hold that. I said, when we went to the juvenile detention center and fed on Thanksgiving Day, all of the detainees there, how did it make? Oh, it felt real good. I said, so when your body does these wonderful things, you have happy hormones and enzymes that are released. So I said, if you want to build up your serotonin and all these other things that are good for you, you'll have a reserve. So you have to be intentional about practicing these habits every day to build it up. It doesn't stop the fact that you lost your mother, you lost your dog, you lost your job. It doesn't stop those things, but I can guarantee you it'll cushion you. So when those things hit you, you can better deal and adjust. And so being intentional about our mental health. I get up every day. I'm sorry.
No, finish it.
I get up every day at 4:30 without a time clock. I meditate, I pray every single morning. And I started that as a Christian. I modeled my Islamic brothers. I was like, man, they got one up on us.
Amen.
We going out church fast for 3 days and, we hungry. You know what I'm saying? But with them, I started with Ramadan 3 years ago, and I've shed 30 pounds from 3 years ago.
Wow.
This is the new me. I did that curly thing on your head, man. I'm new today.
I agree with you. Like for me, my healing process began with helping others.
There you
It
go.
really did, because you step out of yourself and realize you have a bigger purpose, to serve others, and it does help. But I want to say something too. Again, it's also personal. Like for me, people wake up, or the first thing you do is meditate, because there's too much noise in my head. I can't meditate. So the first thing I got to do is move my body. So I got to go to the gym. I got to walk. So I can't sit and meditate until, especially those who struggle with anxiety, you move your body first and get it going, and then you can sit still. Yeah.
I appreciate that. One of the things that I also want to add to it is being intentional about your emotional intelligence. And so with the guys, I go over 6 stages of emotional intelligence. And like first stage is allow yourself to be emotionally present. Second one is knowing your emotion, knowing your triggers. And as you
Knowing your
just
triggers.
articulated, you talked about serving, helping community. That's the 4th stage, which is offering empathy and being intentional about offering empathy to someone else, looking at life from a different lens and saying, well, man, I can help. Oh, yeah, that'll help. And then number 5 and 6 is conflict resolution. And it's the conflict resolutions we have within ourselves and then the conflict resolution we have in the community. So that when we come into a room, we set the temperature. We're not just the opposite. So
Nice. Awesome. And it's
Am I talking too much?
You got
Okay.
nothing. Yeah.
Never that? All right. Well, Ted spoke, you know.
So I would like to just ask you all to maybe speak of some books, some people, just if someone's watching this at home and they're like, well, I don't know how to meditate. I don't know how to do these things. Where can we find some of these resources that maybe have helped you on the journey? Or even if some of the programming that you do, how can people, just get into this mental health awareness, this, positive space? What are something that you can recommend?
I'll go back to, excuse me, being authentic and honest where you're at, right? So for one person, women would come in, it's their money that's stressing them out, right? So right now with them, we're talking about the soul of money. So their relationship with money. So no one's ever thought about having a relationship with money. So just diving in the spiritual aspect of that. So you have to figure out what is it that you need. If you're someone,
That's a program that you have?
yeah, because it's different for oh, my throat. It's different for everybody. So when you show up authentically about what is really driving you to be stressed out,
Yes.
insane, what is it? It could be a relationship. You got to get rid of the relationship. So what do you have to do to let go of this toxic relationship? For most of the women, it's money. They love what they do, but they're not making money, and it's stressing them out. All right, so we're gonna sit here and we're gonna talk about money and get your money right. So it's an individual question, of what. For me, it's community. When I'm in community and when I'm serving other people, it lights me up. So I know for me, my mental well-being, I need to be in community. Yeah, so you would have to ask an individual what it is. Yeah.
Sure.
I appreciate that and totally agree. I've seen where fear, the emotion of fear, has propelled us. And if we look at the present administration, a lot of fear is propelling everyone to fall back versus using that same fear to propel you to go forward. And so there's Joyce Myers, who has Doing It Afraid, Beyond Fear, is a book to read. But I also like to, before we skip too far off of this, we have to start grieving certain emotions that we're going through in order to accept the totality and the beauty of who we are. Because often we're carrying our wounded selves into new circumstances and we can't see because we're looking from a lens of hurt, a lens of abuse, a lens of fear. And so the opportunities that's before us, we're not really capitalizing on them because we're doing it out of fear. So that's when Joyce Myers' book comes, Do It Afraid or Beyond My Fear. The other book, I'm gonna promote my own, which is my fourth book. I wrote this book while in the midst of COVID. I lost over 80 people over a 2.5-month period, and I'm sure many of us can talk to a large number of people. And someone's asked me, Mike, how do you know 80 people? And like when you sit on board of directors for organizations, your own companies, you know some people, you got a large family. And so dealing with those deaths inwardly, I started feeling a certain way. That's when I really started losing weight. And I asked my clinician, people who work for me, and I told them about a friend of mine going through something, but I was really describing myself. And then everything that I was saying to them was coming back. And so it propelled me to write a book called Born Black in America. Hear My Voice, Born Black in America. And that title came about because I was losing it. The initial name of the book was A Collision of Three Storms: Trump, Racism, COVID. But once I started doing real research, I said Trump is no different than any of races, elitists, or whoever. COVID is no different than any other pandemic that could go across the waters. But racism in America, systemic racism has shown up in ways that just stop us. So I did a deep dive, and that's how the name of the book, Hear My Voice, Born Black in America, was birthed, because I wanted to do research on why I show up still dealing with depression. Why, in my mom, who just recently died 2 months ago, why she died with depression. Why this one and this one and this one and this one, and how we target these things. So how do we move past those fears? How do we move past whatever our symptoms are? So I said, I have to write my own book. So I started doing my research and did peer review research, so that I could really be challenged on it and
I have a
speak.
question for you. You touched, sorry, are you complete? Did you finish your stuff?
You can cut me off. Cut it out.
You touched upon it a little bit, ancestral trauma.
Right.
Is that something you discuss within your clinic? That's one. And two, do you bring in holistic practitioners and healers into your facilities?
Um, have we talked about it? Yes, we have, but we have a mixed population. So as far as just bringing in the education, yes. No, we haven't brought in holistic practitioners into the practice and or even into Man Village because statistics have already said that Black men don't come for therapy, right? And so I started this Man Village men support group with 13 trusting friends 2 years ago. Today we have 157 people of color, which 99% of them are people of color, Black, African American. And so opening up dialogue and conversation to first adjust to knowing that I have, like, men are different than women in the way in which we process things, right? So I have fear, but I don't express it the way you do. And so getting brothers in a comfortable position to articulate their feelings, to assign words to their emotions has been a challenge. And so what we found within the way in which we structure, it wasn't so much through the holistic approach, though we do have a holistic practitioner in there. He's, I can't say his name
Right.
on this, right? I can't, right?
I don't know.
Right there. But he throws his views in there, which are very helpful. And now he comes up with, so some of my mindfulness activities actually come from him. So I must say, yes, we do include some of that.
Yeah.
From his perspective, yes. And then I did the research and he's 100% right, so.
Yeah. I asked because that's kind of what I wish more for the future, just really clinicians partnering up with holistic medicine. They kind of, because there's no facts and it's more personal and experience, but open their minds to, medicine women, shamans, rituals, ancestral trauma, instead of just kind of going with the scientific facts, That's kind
I
of
100% agree with you in that, and I'll be more intentional about that because I think you're 100% right. I watch people diagnosed with cancer, and we've all lost people to cancer of some sort. And some who go the holistic approach, often I've seen where they don't heal completely, and they do suffer from their condition terminally. But I've also watched where the combination of both, where they've lasted, and then once they really got over it, they got rid of the regular medicine and stayed with the holistic approach.
I do wish
but
there
it
was
was
more
that
of a
balance, yeah, that
Yes,
you talk
we
about.
can't
So,
rule
yeah.
out science completely, but yeah.
Right. I
yeah.
think the balance, you're 100% right. So listen, I learned about weed
You can
today and
hire
I
me.
learned about
You
a
can
balance.
hire me now.
Brother got to have a balance.
So at this time, I open it up if there's anyone from the audience who has a question. If not, I can
Thank you.
continue asking questions. But if you do, I ask that you come up here so that you can be on camera. If anyone has, if not, I definitely have some more questions. So
Daphne, my question to you is, knowing that you've taken this holistic approach, what were some factors that got in the way, and why did you really, really push forward? I know you said that the medicine wasn't working for you, and the doctors and everyone's telling you something different. So knowing that the holistic approach is healing you at this point, what was one of the main things that you really saw as a roadblock? Was it people? Was it your mind? What was the real roadblock when it comes to holistic? Because I believe in holistic stuff. I really feel that, and I'm so happy that you mentioned it and that you're pushing it forward, because we do know that when people are diagnosed with things, they're quick to throw, the medication, the chemicals in the body. But understanding the holistic approach also includes food and, diet and everything else.
And all types of plant
and
medicine,
all
not just
plant-
cannabis. Yeah.
the plant medicine, and knowing that you found this to be working for you. And I know you're promoting it, but what was really one of the roadblocks? Because I think if you can speak on that, I think it would make a shift for some people. So that was my question. What is your
Okay. So one of the reasons why I went that route, I used to be a fitness competitor. So you have to watch everything that you put in your body. So that was one of the things, like, okay, I got to do the research. So I saw the side effects. So that was one. Two, I'm Haitian descent. So everything was about, and my spirituality. So everything is ancestral. Everything is spiritual. Even with the food you eat, the people that even who does your hair, everything was big in my family about who the energy is around you. So that was the same thing about pharmaceutical drugs and plant medicine, that energy, you know. So I'm big on ancestral and sacred practices and rituals. So I come from a lineage of medicine women and medicine practices. So I don't really know if there was the roadblock would be the judgment. Because my mom was like, you're doing drugs.
Okay,
You're doing drugs.
okay.
So I had to break a lot of generational. I'm not afraid of that. So I am the black sheep of the family. So there was a lot of generational cycles that I had to break to say, nah, this feels in alignment with what I want to do for my body. It feels in alignment with how I had to educate my daughter. My daughter was exposed to cannabis at 7 years old. So that educated her to say, okay, she was introduced to it as a plant medicine and had a different perspective. So once I saw that in my household, because you start with that's the biggest stumbling block is your household being judged. Then I let everything, I don't worry about what other people think, but once you change the mindset in your house and your friends see who you are and they know who I am, like I'm a woman who, you know, kind of had it together. So it was like my lifestyle is what kind of changed people's perspective about the plant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great
I hope I
question.
answered your question.
No,
Oh, you did.
Okay,
Yeah.
good,
And
okay.
the reason why the reason why I'm glad you did mention family, because I believe from just things that occur, how family will set us back.
Yes.
You know, how family, because they haven't tried it, or
They're the
they
biggest
don't-
stumbling
Yeah,
block.
they are, and you know, and they're judging in a way, but they're still looking at you. If you're successful, then all of a sudden you're the best person in the family. But when you're struggling, they don't know you. So you know, knowing that you're in between, trying to figure
You're
out
coming from a
what
Haitian parent, like,
Right,
no
so you
filter.
talk to-
Straight up tell you,
Right.
like, you're a drug addict.
Right,
Yeah,
but
like,
you
yeah.
know, also mess with the mental.
Yeah.
So for you, you know, I'm so proud of you because you're speaking of something that normally isn't spoken about. So I'm learning from you as well, you know, just coming here and just being able to have an open mind. And then when you spoke about the holistic approach, because I know at one point I was struggling because I didn't want to take medication. You know, I just think it's stupid, you know, but understanding the way I eat also alters everything else in my body. So the roadblock for me, when you said family, you know, not even, and not so much that they would, you know, from the Haitian perspective, you know, just coming at you, but just from a regular perspective of a family who don't understand. So they can't support you if they don't understand it.
Yeah.
So,
And that should, you know, my mom works for NYU. Used to work for NYU. It wasn't until they introduced CBD and cannabis, all of a sudden, so you had to wait for the white man to tell you it was okay. Now you want to listen to me. So that was kind of the big thing, like, between the family, you know.
so
Yeah.
thank you. And
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, cultural considerations is something in a clinical perspective that often restricts people and it keeps stigmas present. Because when one culture that may do this and it's normalized, others may not. Family structure within the culture is different, and
Yeah.
with the Caribbean,
Right. My friends
Yeah.
are Jamaican, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, please."
yeah,
That was, you know, that was
Yeah.
a thing. So
Yeah.
it was different in different cultures.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Households.
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Francis, for doing a fantastic job setting this up and having two of my favorites in the room today. And the beauty and the blessing for you both to be here is the fact that I met you both around the same time.
Wow.
And met you through a friend, kind of told me about the self-development work I've done. We connected on that note. And me and Brother William met up in Albany at an event. And just the conversation I had with the both of you, it's amazing how we had similar conversations with each other, but as y'all sat here and kind of taught each other differences, and us capturing that on camera is powerful. I guarantee that I just see the exchange going back and forth. You kind of gave Francis the day off today, you know what I'm saying? Which is pretty cool. But real quick, I got a quick comment about myself, then I'll ask a question. But the first thing would be is back in 2000, right after I bought my first home in Bed-Stuy, I was burning the midnight oil, you know, burning the candle on both ends, as they say. And I was fighting with my girlfriend at the time. We would fought like tooth and nail. And I was smoking weed back then. And I never forget, it was Christmas Eve. I came home and my younger brother gave me some weed. And I was like, I need this. I'm stressed out. I've been working all hard, whatever. And the cool thing about Christmas Eve is from Christmas Day to January 2nd or 3rd, I was always off that week. So I smoked the weed and I went into a frenzy. Similar to what you had said. I think between all the stress, I know between all the stress, fighting with the girlfriend, working hard, partying, hanging out, I don't forget what the name of this weed was. I went to a crazy panic attack.
Wow.
Crazy panic attack. Fainted, ambulance came, took me away. They ran all kind of tests on me. Fast forward a few days later, I get out the hospital, or a day or so later, I got out the hospital. 2 days after that, I meet my ex-girlfriend, we chit chat, we talk, we get into an argument, went into another panic attack. And I bring that up because I know a lot of people who know me don't know that I went through this. And from that time moving forward, my doctor had said, if these continue, I'm gonna have to send you to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. To your point, I was like, no, I'm not crazy. I ain't doing that. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I kind of went in this real pride mode. And I breathed in the brown paper bag when I was feeling like a panic attack was coming on. But through conversation, I realized that it was pretty much all psychological. And I bring that up, guys, more so to the audience because we may be dealing with something. And it took me to go through that scenario, smoking that weed or having that argument with my girl, to experience that. That put me on my health kick from that time moving forward. I started playing basketball, went to the gym, changed my diet around, but everybody might not have the liberty to just not go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist to be to take care of their situation. And then for years moving forward, I always go back to my doctor and she goes, how's the panic attacks? I haven't had one since. So it's been 20-some odd years since that happened. And needless to say, I don't think I smoked weed since then. So
But I went and bought a company.
I went and bought a company, let everybody else tell me how it was, you know? But and I bring that up because I think, so my question, that was a long road to a real short question. How would you know if someone's dealing with something, not necessarily a panic attack, but someone's dealing with some form of mental illness or depression? What are the signs?
Oh, signs. I'll go first.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah.
So some of the signs, change in eating habits, change in behavior. Often when people are dealing with depression, they're in dark spaces, want to be alone. Some are just the opposite of that. Some like to be in the crowd, mixed in. Some very argumentative, very aggressive. Others are very reserved to themselves. But change in eating habits is a very basic one. The mood changes is very basic, obvious ones. They're conditioned, they're smelling if they don't take care of their hygiene. These are just signs, stop brushing their teeth, stop wearing deodorant, stop combing their hair. Sometimes when they're rattling. Now, I don't want to say that all people, the pills and the psych, let's differentiate. The psychiatrist is the one that does the pills and everything else. And even some psychologists are licensed to do that in certain states. The psychologist is more dealing with the behavior. Now, I'm one to believe, because of historic things that we have as people have gone through, we need to be with psychologists as a foundation, just so that we can really get an understanding to our behaviors and someone who's culturally sensitive to our community, so that we can understand behaviors before the assignment of drugs. And so, like, when we have this assignment, there you go. And so when we have the medical professionals to say, well, I went to medical school and this is what you're supposed to have, let me write you this prescription. The problem with that is the doctor who writes the prescription doesn't see you for a month. So he doesn't know what effect that drug's gonna have on you. Next thing you know, you're in the hospital because you had an adverse reaction to it. And maybe for that person over there, that sister over here may respond differently. But dealing with people who are dealing with emotional, mental health issues, changing their behaviors is some of the most obvious things that you can first pick up on. I just had to bring that whole psychologist part in there because I don't think it's spoken enough.
Can I follow up with that? How do you then?
She had a question.
Oh.
Say, no, I'm messing with you.
I was gonna slightly disagree, but go ahead.
Oh, and you'll still be able to. I just want to ask, so when we see that amongst our loved ones or people we know, how do we react to that? How do we respond? Because I know from my mental health first aid class, there's certain ways that we should respond to these changes in behaviors that is more helpful than others. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, one of the things that I always tell people, which is the hardest thing to do, but it's the simplest thing, is get out of your own way. Because often we have expectations of who we know, who we love, and you're supposed to do this, supposed to do that. And when it doesn't go that way, we don't know how to get out of our ways because our child is suffering. I'm the mother, I have the answer. I'm the father, I have the answer. And so you may not have the answer to that condition that child is dealing with. So you have to be, one, non-judgmental. You have to create safe space so that your child or your loved one feel comfortable enough to talk to you. You have to create trust. It has to be a trust relationship. And when you have that congruency in what you're saying and what you're doing, a child or a person or your loved one will be more apt to talk to you in those environments.
And before you answer, Daphne, again, I love how you broke down between psychiatry and psychology. I was going to be sent to a psychologist, to your point. So that's, and again, I never know the difference between the two, never even investigated it. So I'm glad you broke that down. But
I slightly disagree only because people are, it's easy to hide nowadays. Like, I don't think it's as obvious anymore.
What part you disagree with?
Just what signs that you're looking for, smell, change in habit, change in, just certain changes that you had mentioned. I don't think it's as obvious anymore. I think we have a real great deal of pretenders in this world.
Well, that's true. I don't think it's so much a disagreement.
Yeah.
It's
More
because
like
these are
yeah,
facts.
Yeah.
These are facts of what happens.
True.
In
True.
addition to the things that people hide
Right.
behind, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's not a disagreement. It's actually agree.
Yeah, true.
And it's an add-on.
Thank you for clarifying. So I think true. So basically, community. Like, we really have to get to know one another and really
know.
be in
There you
community
go.
to see how are you. Simple question: how are you doing?
Yeah.
Or as I mentioned before, just be kind to people because you really just don't know what's going on in people's heads.
Kindness go a long way.
is it
And
kindness?
kindness. If
Or
you
just checking up. Sometimes out of the blue,
Yeah.
I've gotten random texts who are aware of my struggle. A random text, how are you? That can just brighten up your whole day. That somebody was like, you know what? I'm glad somebody knows. Like, it's kind of rough, but that how are you can go a long way. You good? You good?
Wow.
A hello.
You know what's funny too? There's also a bridge being a gap being shortened by psychiatrists, psychologists, and coaching.
Yes.
I've met a few psychiatrists who clinically, got all their licenses, certifications, whatever the case may be. And me being in the self-development space, I'm in the coaching space. I am a coach myself. And a lot of differences between the two, what I gather is, not saying it's true or not true, is they say psychiatrists tend to focus on the past, what happened to you, so on and so forth. Coaches works from the future.
Yes.
And that's very, very powerful. And they speak in those terms as well. So as a coach, what I find myself doing is not competing with a psychologist. I would never do that, or better than, less than, or whatever the case may be. What it forced me to do as a coach is to listen. Because people don't listen. As people, we just don't listen. Like, someone will be sitting there talking to us, and we're ready to answer before they even finish talking. It's impossible to do both. You can't listen and prepare to speak. So as a coach, just listening. That's why I don't know if y'all saw me, if you guys felt burned, but I was sitting there and I was like, like, I want to not just hear the words, but feel the words that y'all was saying. That's how I developed my question when I came to the front. But thank you. I don't want to take too much time, but.
Let me say this. Yesterday, we had our first Man Village had our first co-ed session, and we had around 60 people in the room, all professionals. We had a psychiatrist. And so what I did, I made sure that I had a counterpart, because I know with my brotherhood, I'm the facilitator. So I needed a facilitator for the women. And they didn't know her because she's out of Washington, D.C. She's a life coach. And so in the room, you had a psychiatrist, you had 3L licensed practicing counselors in there. You had pastors of churches, you had a medical doctor in there, you had acupuncture, you had everybody in my group. And so while there, or prior to going there, me and the life coach had different approaches to how we would address the group, bring in women and men to the same environment. And so since I've been doing this thing constantly every other week, I said, well, let's create a model. Let's model behavior, right? And so we model behavior. So the difference between the coach, which you alluded to, and the psychologist was the approach to counseling. Non-directive is from a clinical perspective, right? Where the patient knows his story or her story better than anyone. Who am I to direct you in how to live your life? Where the life coach takes you where you are and where you want to go. And so she and I, we had to have balance, right? And so I was very intentional on that, because I don't want to be stuck in me in the sense of not being able to help someone else who's gone way beyond that point where I am. And so having that fair balance, she was able to take those Hey, man, we had a good session. She was there.
Tomorrow on our panel discussion, I'm having a spiritual psychologist and
Wow.
a psychotherapist, and we're going to talk about spiritual experiences, people who
Wow.
believe that they hear voices versus people are like, okay, you know,
Mm.
you need to go to a mental institution. So that's like a taboo conversation
Wow.
because there are people who do have spiritual experiences and they're being diagnosed as bipolar or schizophrenic, but don't have room for, you know, to talk about their psychosis in another way.
Yeah, but another conversation, I'll be giving up to some others that want to stay cool.
Does anyone else from the audience have a question? Come on up.
Asho?
Sapati, right?
No.
Oh, no? Mbule?
Did you say crumble?
This is my good side here. How everybody doing? My name is Asher, and again, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your day. Thank you, Ted, for opening up the doors for everybody to come. I'm sure, like was said earlier, many of us, whether unbeknownst to us or been diagnosed or kind of questioning, we all dealing with some type of, something going on up here. So my question is, I recently been researching ADHD. I would like to hear both panelists, both William and Daphne, speak on, that a little bit more. How can the usage of cannabis be an aid in kind of getting control over it, or more, or would it have like more of an adverse reaction to it? Just a little bit more of what it is. And ADHD, is it a form of depression or is it something different? Let's kind of talk about that a little bit for me.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Daphne because she's been my instructor today on cannabis and everything associated with it. So that's not
Or
my
you can
area of
talk
specialty.
about
But the
ADHD
ADHD in
part,
general
yeah.
as well, yeah.
I'm turning it over to
Okay.
Daphne. I'm staying in my lane.
So ADHD and neurodivergence, I think we talked about that a little bit in neurodivergence, people who are process things a little bit differently. So you have to find out how, I'm just learning this, okay? ADHD, I believe we're bombarded with a lot of noise. So again, you have to do your self-assessment. Also talk to other people. What is it that's creating the noise in your head or keeping you unfocused? There are bud tenders here, so there are different types of cannabis that will help with focus. It may not work for you. You don't know. It may or may not. So that's a self-assessment. I can't prescribe, like, okay, so if you talk to one of the bud tenders, they can probably recommend something for cannabis. But ADHD too, I've spoken to you, I kind of know you, I feel like you're more of a neurodivergent and you just process things a little more differently, or we think differently, and that's just a new thing, or eliminating a lot of you do so much during the day that we have to, as we get older, we can't multitask the way we used to. Right. So you just kind of take into consideration about what's going on in your life. And then you can speak to a professional and then really see. So you were diagnosed? You were diagnosed or just a self-diagnosed?
Not really a self-diagnosis. I'm not kind of owning it just yet.
Okay.
I had an ex-girlfriend recently send me a DM with a video, and the gentleman in the video, they were making humor of a serious situation, but some of the things that so I could just touch base. And this is recent for me. Like I was saying, like, over the last 2 years. So the gentleman in the video, he had to have his friend come over. He was like, yo, just come over and sit down, get you some eats, don't got to do nothing. So when the friend would come over, then everything that he'd been putting off or he would take care of. But when the friend wasn't there, it was back to the challenges. And that was something that I was been experiencing. So, yeah.
So neurodivergent. Like for me, it was the same thing. Usually I have my therapist on the side, or when I go into a meeting, I need somebody with me because sometimes it's just too fast, the language is too quick, or I'm not relating, or we're butting heads and I'm like, I think we're speaking the same language, but there's a disconnect somewhere. So I would get diagnosed first and see the difference between being ADHD or neurodivergent. Neurodivergent.
Yeah. I'll speak too because I'm also a special education teacher. So I have worked with a lot of ADHD students with autism on the spectrum. And one of the things I'll just say, and I'm happy you kind of said it, be careful with labels.
Yep.
You have to be careful with labels because you become what you label yourself as. Right. And so
Can I?
So, and I'm sitting here because I'm not necessarily a mental health expert or anything like that, but I've been a special ed teacher since 2011. I've had so many students, and one of the things I'll say is we become what we tell ourselves. And so if you have to try to figure out what is it that, are you having focus issues? Are you having, because kind of like she said, everyone is different. And we live in a Western world where they want to give you medicine because that is how the economy is. Pharmaceuticals, like the lobbyists, they are running America. And so we think that if we can't sit still, then we need medicine. And one of the things I'll say is I've been doing a lot of research on nutrition. And so I would say, look at your diet. Are you eating a lot of processed foods? We found that during, so just like little quick side, like when it was time to go to war, women had to start working. And so like quick food to, women had to work, and so we couldn't make breakfast like we used to. And so all the processed foods started becoming a thing so that breakfast could be made in a second, this could be made in a second. So now
And last longer.
Yes, and can stay on the food shelves. Right. Years later, now we're seeing all these, cases of ADHD and this and that. And so it comes back to a nutrition thing, and then also just like really being careful of like what you're putting into your spirit, what you're labeling yourself. Are you exercising? Do you have a holistic lifestyle that is allowing you to be calm, right? Because relationships is so much. And so just be careful with the labeling, be careful with the Instagram information, because we're all very different. And I see that so much, especially post-pandemic, and so I'm not an expert, but I am a special education teacher. And so part of my job is to, make sure these students that need special accommodations to learn are able to. And so you have some students who really are struggling, who can't sit down, and you need to do that. But then a lot of times you realize this kid just wanted to do something different than what the teacher wanted to do. And so nobody wanted to deal with this kid. And so now, 6 years later, they're in the 7th grade, can't read, but they got ADHD, and and everybody's okay with that. And the school to prison pipeline is a thing as well. And so all these things are coming together to give you these parts of information that are not in totality. And so really make sure that you seek your own journey of this and be careful to take on that.
Thank you.
Let me support both of them because one of the first things that Daphne said, she asked you, were you diagnosed? Right. There's a DSM-5, which is the Bible for all clinicians with all diagnoses. Okay. And so if you're coming with a random question and you're not diagnosed and you want to know a specific about this, in order to get diagnosed, you have criterions that you have to meet each one of these. Okay. And then it has to be what level, whether it's moderate, whether it's high, or whatever the case is. And so going to the spiritual component about speaking life or speaking death through the power of your tongue. Right. You have to be careful what you put out there, especially if you haven't been diagnosed. And don't you let someone else diagnose you unless they are a professional, unless they're going to really be in your best interest. Right. And they have an office, or just don't let people diagnose you, and don't believe everything you hear.
Or read.
Okay. Or read, because, or think, right. So, so both of them articulated very well. I just know from me to talk cannabis, and now you're talking about a condition, I'm like, Mom. So first thing she said, were you diagnosed? No. So it's hard to, if you haven't met these criterions, to say that, all right, well, this is your condition. You may have something else. You may have paranoid schizophrenia, bro. It's like, no, I'm just joking.
Or sleep. Simple as sleep. I have to, I'm not sleeping right. And that's why you can't focus. It's something as simple as just sleeping well. Yep. And next thing you know, you take ADHD.
Rest
and you're like,
is important. Exercise, food. Food.
I want to just share a story. I have to share this story. I always do. I was working with a gentleman in fitness competition, and he was like, I'm having insomnia. I can't sleep. I can't sleep. I can't sleep. So I told him to go backwards. I said, look into what you're eating. So he was able to log, and they were giving him prescription drugs to sleep. And then I said, just take a second. Come to find out, he was taking a lot of protein shakes, a lot of the fitness stuff that you take, and it had a lot of caffeine. So there you go, getting ready to
Yeah.
take drugs when all you had to do was lighten up the caffeine in your body.
Yep. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Take an assessment of, everything going
Everything,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank
Very,
you.
very good question to end our Q&A portion.
Yeah.
And I just have to thank you two so much for being here today. Like I said, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so please, everyone, give it a hand to our panelists. Thank you so much. So before we close out officially, I'm going to ask Cheryl to come up from Urban Planty. So this is a portion of our event where we just allow business owners to come to basically speak to some of the things they're doing. And go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl Brown, and my business is Urban Planty. I'm a urban landscaper, garden designer, plant decorator. All the plants that you see here, I brought into the space to bring life into the space. I was really happy to be here to hear what you brought to the table today. And one of the things that I would say that helps with mental wellness that is often underappreciated and not really spoken of, that is a slice of the pie of bringing that mental peace to ourselves, is plant life, being outdoors, that connection with nature that has been really just undervalued. And so that's one of the pieces that I bring to my clients, is really bringing nature into the urban environment and what that can look like, whether you have a balcony, you have a backyard, or it's just your apartment. What can that look like? So on May 19th, I'm facilitating a workshop. It's called Spring into Healing. And basically, we're going to talk about those ways that that can happen within your apartment. We're going to make beautiful little containers that you can put on your windowsill and grow your own herbs. And these herbs you can use for tea, for cooking, to put into your cannabis pre-rolls or rolls. And just, all the ways that these herbs can bring healing into our lives. And so if you're around, please come through. It's going to be lots of fun. We're going to have lots of conversation about plants and what that can look like in the urban landscape, because a lot of times we think that that's just not for us because we don't have some big house with a big backyard, but there are many ways that that can happen. So I encourage you to come out. It's going to be a really great time. And if you guys have any questions or you want to contact me, my company is Urban Planty. You can find me on Instagram. It's urban_planty, PLANTI. All right, thank you.
And where is it going to be, May 19th?
Oh, it's going to be right here in the space. And everyone's going to go home with their own little container that they can put on their windowsill. And it's going to be a really nice time.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you. And then we have Saucy Sip.
Saucy sis, woohoo!
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Brito. I am here with my brand, the Saucy Sip. The Saucy Sip is a fairly new custom crafted cocktail and mocktail experience. And so we have some sips for you to sample. You can follow us on Instagram. It's the Saucy Sip, all one word. And I think the drinks speak for themselves, so that'll probably be the best way for you to to experience it. And basically, it's a mobile bar service, so you can hire me to come in and bring my pre-crafted cocktails and mocktails, and eventually we'll have infused drinks as well. Make it extra saucy. Thank you.
Awesome.
So real quick, everybody, what you guys just saw, what we're going to do now is, again, with project manager, supervisor, multi-talented Francis, every time we do the podcast, we want to add or edit a few things that we do here. So Francis came up with a great idea 2 podcast sessions ago. She goes, at the end of every session, let's have people talk about their business. All right. And matter of fact, we're going to have you talk as well. So today, as you just heard, 2 folks who have different things going on, and what we're doing is we don't just want to be a dispensary. That's the reason for this. It might look at as though we're doing too much. It might look like we're doing things that's not related to cannabis, or it can look like a community is being built.
Amen.
Yes. Yes.
All right? I like the or part. All right, so what we want to do is people can come in and purchase their products. That's fine. But we want to educate. We want to learn. We want to promote or allow you to promote yourselves, and we'll support you in that. So the next person coming to the front is my good friend Kendall with his lady, J. Marie. She's an artist, and she came here for an event we did about a couple of weeks ago. There's this artist out of Queens, young girl coming out with a new R&B single, and people don't realize it, but the culture, cannabis culture, has a lot to do with music, history. So we just connected with her name is Nia, and her team. They came in here. We did a podcast, similar podcast, Q&A type scenario, but then we walked around the neighborhood. We created a video out of it. And the managers and owners of that record label called Starblaze, what they ended up doing was they created a few clips, and now we're going to come up with a collaboration for merch. So if you guys know me, you know this. If you don't know me, I'm going to tell you now. I speak from a world of possibility. I always want to create something new, but it has to be in alignment with what we're doing. All right? Or you can hit me to maybe not in alignment, and you can convince me it is. But without further ado, I'm going to bring to the front just to introduce herself, her and her boo, and Kendall, I want you to come up as well. You know, you can just stand here. Just give it up for J. Marie, everybody.
Am I in the camera?
Right here.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is J. Marie. I am an R&B artist that live around the corner.
Nice.
I love it.
A few things about me. I just got off this season of American Idol, which was really fun. If you want to catch me, just go on Hulu.
Wow.
So it was a really great experience. So now that I'm back, I just have a single that came out, which is pretty cool. I like it. It's like a love letter to being from the East Coast. It's called East Coast Love.
East Coast love.
So yeah, stream me on all platforms. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Yeah, so I usually do a lot of content. I went viral off of doing some Tony Braxton impersonations, and it got a lot of went all over the internet.
I think I know who you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, it went all over the internet, so that was great. So yeah, just look out for me. My music is out. I think it's really great R&B, and I think you'll really enjoy speaking about mental health. My whole first EP is about mental health. I got a song called Love PTSD. So that's how I heal with my mental health is through my music, writing and singing. So
That's right.
and I'm also Haitian too.
Woo,
I was born in
Sakafet,
Haiti.
Sakafet.
So I'm
Oui,
also
oui.
from Haiti too. And yeah, so look out for me. Check out my music. It's dope. If you into your feelings and then you want to be loved or don't want to be loved, I got everything for everybody. honey.
Okay.
So yeah, check me out.
Definitely.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nichelle Stone. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Ted, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this community with By Any Name. This is a fantastic place to be at and work at. And I just want to share with you guys that I created a company called True Stoner, which is a cannabis lifestyle brand, and it derivated from that to a game show called Stoner Feud. Stoner Feud educates people about the harms, the benefits, the laws, and the regulations with cannabis in NYC. The reason why I created it is because I came from the underground street cannabis world where people would just get together with tables, sell weed, stand around, smoke, and not interact or engage. So I felt like this would be a great tool to not only bring people together, but also educate them on the benefits and the harms of cannabis.
Amen.
So I'm happy to be here in this space and learn more about cannabis as far as like just, you know, the effects, what it does, what to look for when you do take this product, because I come from an environment where it was, if it smelled good, it looked good, this is it, you know? So to know like more in depth about the product is amazing to me, and it's very enlightening because I'm learning every day new products on the shelf. What are the effects? How do they help people cope with day-to-day life and things of that nature? So I'm just happy to be a part of this movement.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you guys for having this panel discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. And so we have our last person here. So before we're gonna break out, around we have some QR codes, which myself and Jeff will help you. We have a event evaluation that we ask you all to do. And it basically allows us to improve on these events. And so if you can just spend like 5 minutes doing that, we're gonna do a raffle, and we're gonna actually be raffling off a ticket to our May 19th event with Urban Plantee. So if you're interested in that, make sure you do the evaluation. But if not, please do the evaluation because it helps us improve every event. And last but not least, our partner at Lobby Studios, Everett.
Hey everyone. So thank you. I'm Everett from Lobby Studios, BK. I collaborate with By Any Other Name, doing this marvelous event. I'm usually behind the camera. Ted knows I'm camera shy. I'm like really laid back. But just to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. We have a studio here in Brooklyn where we shoot content and a lot of podcasts. And what we do also is take the podcast out of the studio and bring it to a venue, not just in Brooklyn, but anywhere. We've shot music release parties, things of that sort. But once again, with keeping it like a podcast kind of informative session. As far as the shows that we've even produced, we're producing shows for Publicists. We did a show called Let's Smoke and Joke. One of the big things that I like to put my hat on is a show that we call Black Men Brunch 2, right? The Black Men's Brunch, where people might have heard of, Eric Adams and a good friend of mine's brought that together like 10 years ago, where they started in small restaurants and small venues, and it grew to like 900 individuals, the last one they did. So what I did was I brought it back to the restaurants, and we sat down and we talked about Black men and their issues, but always what we did was get the female point of view no matter what we were talking about, because obviously we have our own take on what we deal with in the community, but it's always good to hear your sister's point of view as well. So once again, Lobby Studios, we're growing. I try to connect and collaborate with as many people as possible. It's a community-based business, so it's not just that we're here to make money. We want to be part of the community, just like Ted is part of the community with By Any Other Name. So if you have an idea and you want to collaborate, please reach out. And we're on Instagram, Lobby Studios BK.
Yes, I have lots of ideas.
Did you do the editing and filming for the Bring BK Back ladies?
Yeah, I produced that show as well, yeah.
Yeah, that was some great work, man.
Thank you, man.
Transitions, everything.
Thank you. Thank you. And the young brother right here that probably ain't listening to us, he does a lot of the film work, and he does a lot of editing. And we go from, I ain't gonna tell my age, but this young man is 20 years old, and we have another young gentleman who's like, I think he just turned 28. And I feel like we could go the whole spectrum as far as age is concerned. And me personally, I learn a lot from younger people. So I have to have individuals like Tyler around me just so that, I give him an opportunity to talk. When he starts talking, I stop. I give him the floor, I listen, because once again, I can learn from my peers, but I think more so the younger generation, I learn from even more.
Awesome.
We have one more.
Yes, go ahead. And then while they're coming up.
Oh, well, let her. She's here.
Okay. I didn't know she was ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Evelyn Wilson, aka in a little bit. Okay. I'm getting real close. Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn Wilson, aka Evelyn Flows. I'm here because of Francis, and I also know this young lady here. So I'm super excited to be here. I own a branding agency called No Ceiling Network, and we basically help people and businesses get their vision across to the audience that they're looking to get it across to. So whether it be through social media, whether it be through web design, or any type of media, commercials, etc. We help you get your brand in front of the faces who need to see it. And then also, I have my own podcast called Spark Your Flow Live. We've done several episodes in Brooklyn. We're headed to Harlem May 18th, and I'm just super excited to be here. This has been such a great conversation. I am not collaborating with this space yet, but hope to soon. So thank you all.
You're in the neighborhood, right?
I am in the neighborhood. I live right down the street.
Amen.
Thank you.
No
That last
problem. Thank
podcast was
you.
really good. I was at your last.
Yes,
it was
yes,
really
and-
good.
Yes, I need you to come on as a guest. Okay. But yes, thank you.
And as we're closing out, I just want to pass it back to the panelists and just as we all kind of said what we got going on, what are some things where we can follow up with you all?
So I co-founded a company called Green Hearted Wellness. Under that brand, it's all mind, body, soul. But I also created Mondays. It comes from, again, I shared with a time in my life where I could not even enjoy Sundays. That's how much anxiety I had about going to work on Mondays. I didn't realize how much trauma that was in my body. I was like, I feel like I haven't had a 9-to-5 job since 2013, and it was still in my body feeling like Monday.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to change the narrative for Monday. So I created Mondays. So we talk about all the things: money, meditation, music, marijuana, meeting. Mocktails, yes, Saucy Sip is a great supporter. We did massages and mocktails on my launch. So anything that you can think about for Monday and making it delicious. Mondays. So if you're a woman of color who wants to bring their vision to life, come into the studios. We always include movement. We do masterminds, and we just help people women of color bring their vision to life and collaborate in community. So, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's 3 M's, MMM.Mondays. Please follow to kickstart the algorithm and get awareness.
Is it for men too?
June.
Men?
Yeah. We're going to talk about money, men, and magic. And the men are taking over in June.
Oh, okay.
So I would love for you to come.
Wait, I don't know if that's true. Now, she had me scheduled for what Monday that she bounced.
Well, because it's all women.
The pictures all women now.
By then it
In
was,
June. Yeah, I'm saving you for June.
she bounced you from June to July, right? And say, hey, next June.
July, we're going to talk about mushrooms. I am into psychedelics. Yeah.
So I just got a distribution 5 months ago for one of my films on mental illness called Beyond the Silence.
Nice.
It's streaming on Amazon Prime Video, and it's streaming on Tubi. And it's a movie I directed, produced with Bill Duke, Frankie Faison, Bill Cobbs, J.D. Williams, and Uzman Sharif. So that's one way of getting me. The other way is my name, William Michael Barbie. Is public, so I'm open.
And can you spell your last name for us?
Barbee.
Yes.
Yeah, I found out the hard way.
Yes. Thank you all so much for sticking around. Thank you.
And thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Thank you.